All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. So did you miss me? All right, let's go ahead and look at this. So this would be a warm-up problem I would normally do. It's from 2010. And obviously, these are all still legit. I know that was 11 years ago, but uh, we can still use these problems. So here's our situation. A humane society wants to estimate with 95% confidence the proportion of households in its county that own at least one dog. Interpret the 95% confidence level in this context. It does not say find the interval. It says interpret that level. Okay, this is why I keep pointing out all the time when we do those examples, the level. Okay, so this is what it looks like, ladies and gentlemen, for part A. So, and it's in context. All right, so pause the video if you need to, if I'm going too fast for you to copy it down. And you can print this. This is above the videos. So a 95% confidence level means that if one were to repeatedly take random samples of the same size from the population and construct a 95% confidence interval from each sample, then in the long run, 95% of those intervals would succeed in capturing the actual value of the population proportion of households in the county that own at least one dog. Okay, notice it's in context. You can't just describe what it is, but you need to put it in context of that problem. Okay, AP Statistics is not only learning about statistics, it's also being able to write formally and informative and in context. Okay, let's look at the next part. The Humane Society selected a random sample of households in this county and used the sample to estimate the proportion of all households that own at least one dog. The condition for calculating the 95% confidence interval for the proportion of households in this county that own at least one dog were checked and verified. So, ladies and gentlemen, that means you don't have to do it. They've already checked all the conditions, and they said it's been verified. And the resulting confidence interval is the p hat plus or minus. There's our margin of error, folks. Okay, that's our margin of error. That's the z star times the square root of p times its complement divided by the square root of n. B, a National Pet Products Association claimed that 39% of all American households owned at least one dog. Does the Humane Society interval estimate provide evidence that the proportion of owners in its county is different from the claimed national proportion? Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, what you would do is you would go ahead and find the interval. You would subtract the margin of error, add that margin of error. And you're going to discover, ladies and gentlemen, that this 39% is within that interval. Now, when it's within that interval, folks, that means it does not provide evidence that it is different than the national proportion from what they claim. So this is what it looks like. Okay, so no, the 95% confidence interval is 0.298 to 0.536. This interval includes the 0.39 as a plausible value for the population proportion of households in the county that own at least one dog. Therefore, the confidence interval does not provide evidence that the proportion of dog owners in this county is different from the claimed national proportion. It is not different because that is within the interval. If it was not in the interval, then there would be evidence that it is different than what they claim, the national proportion. Think about that. If it's not in the interval, then there would be evidence that the proportion is different than the national proportion. Okay? Listen to that again if you have to. C, how many households were selected in the Humane Society sample? Show how you obtained your answer. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, I just did that in the last video. That's what we ended with. So we're going to take, now there's more here than you really need to know. Just look at the last sentence, okay? So we're going to take and set n equal to, okay, 95%, remember, if we look at our table, that z star for 95% is the 1.96. Okay, oops, let me get on the right. There we go. So we take, remember we just did this formula, 1.96 squared times the p hat times its complement divided by the margin of error squared. Again, that margin of error is the 0.119. So we end up with 65.95 when we plug that in. So the Humane Society must have selected 66 households for its sample. Ba-dum-bum. All right, last thing, ladies and gentlemen, is showing you on the calculator. So I'm going to go back to this problem that we just did in the other video with the teenagers, and I'm going to go to this part right here where we do the calculations. Okay, so please remember, you do have to write down what formula we're using, put the numbers in, okay, but then, ladies and gentlemen, we can use the calculator to come up with our interval, okay? Some of you may prefer not to do that, but I'm going to show it to you. All right, so remember, just like in the previous video in chapter 10.2, we go to stat. We go to test. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a 1 proportion Z interval. Okay, I will show you all these other things eventually, but we have to go to 1 proportion Z interval. Okay, let me move it up a little bit. On this calculator, it is letter A. It is a 1 proportion Z interval. We pick it. I've already typed them in. 775, except I don't have my total right here, out of 1,100 teenagers. Okay, let me double check, make sure I'm not making another error here. So 775 out of 1,100 teenagers. Okay, so again, let me show you one more time. Stat, test, and then go to 1 proportion Z test. You can see we've got all kinds of tests, folks. So you can't get these mixed up. So on our calculator, on the one that I'm using is letter A. All I have to do is type in the amount out of how many, and then I'm going to go ahead and put in 0.99. Calculate, and ladies and gentlemen, there's our interval. 0.6691 to 0.73998, and that is exactly what I got when I did it the other way, when I went ahead and found my margin of error and added and subtracted. Okay, so there you go, ladies and gentlemen, and then it tells us what our p hat is. That's how you can use the calculator on 1 proportion Z intervals. And again, just a reminder, what have we already done? Okay, we have already done, okay, we have done Z intervals, okay, chapter 10.2. We have done T intervals, chapter 10.2. And we have done the 1 proportion Z interval. We have not done anything else on this yet. We did 7, 8, and A. And again, these are all in your book. You can find the calculator stuff in your book in each chapter when you can use it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you have problems or issues, please come to office hours so that I can assist you. All right, this is it for chapter 10, ladies and gentlemen. So chapter 10, we'll be taking our test very soon. All right.